Good evening, everyone. I am Barbara Aharoni, the chair of the No Place for Hate Committee of the town of Plymouth. With me tonight are Art Lavoie and Christian Guzman. Welcome to the No Place for Hate visual Virgil that has been put together within the last 24 hours with the help of the Chief of Police, Mike Botieri, and Julie Thompson, the Executive Director of PACTV. I want to especially thank my committee members, Sarah Sibley, Vedna Haywood, and Michelle Badger, who have been instrumental in pulling our joint event together. They were further challenged with our unexpected change of venue. I apologize for all the confusion and concern this change has caused for everyone. A message went out this afternoon in Wicked Local OCM to explain that Indivisible Plymouth, the League of Women Voters, and their followers opted to continue with the original plan. Just hours ago, PACTV reporter Mark McKinley volunteered to get down to the Brewster Gardens to link PACTV up with the demonstration so as to unify us all together in this live, simultaneous broadcast. Thank you so much, Mark. Because of you, all the citizens of Plymouth are now afforded both these options, whether physically or virtually, to attend a peaceful community vigil and be a part of our town's outcry against injustice and racism. No Place for Hate formed a statement that has now been endorsed by many leaders and organizations in and around Plymouth. It has already been circulated in a press release to the entire South Shore. I will now read that statement to you. To the citizens of Plymouth, like many of you, we are exhausted seeing Black men and women treated as less than in our country. We denounce these gut-wrenching acts that have been happening for years and continue to take place across the nation. Most recently, the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. There exists an increasingly life-threatening culture for people of color in their communities, which is sickening and unacceptable. It is a real and present danger that must be met head on. We can no longer continue as a country to be apathetic and numb to these attacks. We must stand together to educate each other on how to prevent and combat these situations in the future until we are rid of these oppressive acts. Furthermore, we must support those who are understandably outraged and are grieving the recurrent violence that exists in their communities. Plymouth is proud to be a No Place for Hate community designated and marked by the town government's No Place for Hate committee. As part of its success to work across our community, the committee works in partnership with the Plymouth Area Interfaith Clergy Alliance, Plymouth Public Schools, Plymouth Public Library, and the Plymouth Police Department. Under Chief Botieri's leadership, this partnership with the Plymouth Police Department has been fostered over the years in the mutual goal of ensuring our community is one in which hate does not thrive. We are reminded of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, quote, "No one is free until we all are free. We must unite to end hatred of the other," unquote. We invite you with us tonight and in solidarity and to reaffirm our commitment to combating racism. This is one of the many actions that we can implement with the hope that it provides a safe space for dialogue, education, and solutions. We hope to continue to provide our community with resources to educate each other. Those being threatened, killed, and cast aside are our brothers and sisters. We must stand together against these actions. It is not enough to be against racism. We must be anti racist. This statement has been signed by the Plymouth No Place for Hate Committee that consists of Maxwell Archer, Michelle Badger, Betsy Connell, Eleanor Gubbins, Christian Guzman, Vedna Haywood, Susan Moore, Nancy Moore, Andrea Platt, John Platt, Sarah Sibley, Jackie Winokur, and Roy Zarazian. And also signed is the Chief Micah Botieri Police Department, Plymouth Area Interfaith Clergy Alliance, Plymouth Area League of Women Voters, Indivisible Plymouth, Barnstable No Place for Hate Committee, and the Norwell All Are Welcome Committee. Our next message is from Reverend Art Lavoie.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Reverend Arthur Lavoie, and I'm the minister at First Parish in Plymouth, Unitarian Universalist. I also have the honor of chairing the Plymouth Area Interfaith Clergy Alliance. Please join me in prayer. God of all the nations, Spirit of life, Holy One of many names, we gather today in solidarity with all those who are out on the streets of our nation protesting the brutal murder of George Floyd and so many other people of color whose lives have been taken by those, some active duty officers, some civilians, who have claimed that they uphold the law. Holy One, we know that we are all equal in your sight, but we have not treated each other with equality, with that love and that compassion that comes from you. The scourge of racism and the culture of white supremacy has turned us from you, has made us scorn our religious values, and has corrupted our hearts and souls. We have turned our face from you and from what is right and good. Tonight, we ask that you forgive our violent speech and action and our sinful ways, so that we might turn back to you. We ask that you give us the grace to face our fear and our wrong-heartedness and wrong-headedness, so that we may once again offer the blessings of love and compassion, where we hold all people in the same high esteem. Help us to accept those who are different from us, whether that difference is by skin tone, cultural background, gender, age, ability, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Give us the heart of kindness so that we might help comfort those who mourn. Give us the courage to stand with those who are rightly outraged as yet another inexcusable killing of a Black or brown person on our streets. And give us the strength to channel our rage into right action so that we might work for justice for all people and together build a beloved community that today we can only dream of. We humbly ask this in the name of all that is holy and good. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. Our next speaker is Christian Guzman. from the No Place for student member of the No Place for Hate Committee.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Guzman, and I'm a graduating senior at Plymouth North High School and a member of No Place for Hate Committee. Our nation has been living in a state of systemic and institutionalized racism. These white supremacy ideals have corrupted the minds of those who pledge to serve and protect all citizens. May 25th marks the day our world lost a son, brother, and a father at the hands of 4 police officers. Rather than providing protection, these officers displayed an abuse of power at the mercy of George Floyd. Floyd was forced to beg for his life. And for what reason, one may ask? A deli employee called 911 on Floyd for allegedly paying for cigarettes with counterfeit money. Shortly after the call, cruisers showed up and quickly pinned Floyd down to the cement, where he soon after lost his life. Because one deli employee suspected Floyd was paying with counterfeit money, he was forced into total submission at the knee of an unjust officer. 9 days after his death, we find our nation in a state of dismay, and rightfully so. For years, the Black Lives Matter movement has tried to conduct peaceful protests in hope of extinguishing the white supremacist ideals inflicted onto the Black communities by state and vigilantes, but have been unsuccessful. Rather than remembering May 25th as the day another Black man lost his life at the hands of police, I hope we all remember May 25th as the day we all came together to eradicate the systemic racism many people of color have fallen victim to. The youth of this nation demand a change, and we will do anything it takes to effect the change we want to see in the world.
And now we will be joined by the live feed from Brewster Gardens.
Thank you for coming to this peaceful family vigil at Brewster Gardens to honor Black Lives Matter and the lives that were lost to racial profiling and police brutality in our country. If there's anyone here who doesn't have the intentions of honoring Black Lives Matter and the lives that were lost, we ask that you leave now. The partner organizations, the Invisible Plymouth, the partner organizations, Indivisible Plymouth, the League of Women Voters, and the Plymouth Police Department ask that this be a peaceful and positive gathering that supports moving forward our democracy and our humanity. The program will have a variety of speakers that are spread out right here that will start speaking. We will pause for the church bells, which will ring at 7 p.m. Upon conclusion of the church bells ringing, we will be silent in honor of George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, the amount of time for which someone's knee was on his neck and would not allow him to breathe. We will follow that with singing Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is the Black National Anthem, created in 1900 to honor the birthday of Abraham Lincoln and the struggle for justice that continues. After we finish singing that, we will have a few more speakers, and then we will close with reflection on how we will move to action after this moment of reflection. At this point, I thank you for coming, and I'm going to pass it to our first speaker, Laura Wernick.
No, you can't do that.
So before we each say our speech, we're going to be honoring some of the innocent lives that unfortunately we have lost because of police brutality. Sean Reed, Darnisha Harris, Miriam Carey, Stephen DeMarcio Taylor, Melissa Williams, and Rakia Boyd. I want to take a moment to applaud you for your courage as you stand here today. Ridiculous acts of violence have attempted to silence millions of voices across the country, but your presence proclaims that our community will not be silenced. When first asked to speak at this vigil, I was scared. And to be completely honest with you, my fear has not gone away. However, that has not stopped me from standing here today and fighting against the racism that is oppressed within our society, embedded within our society. We cannot allow fear to stop us from fighting for justice, for racial equality, the justice and racial equality that is legally promised to us through the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So continue demanding for change beyond social media outlets as much as you can. Raising awareness is crucial for the Black Lives Matter movement, but what is also crucial is making sure that you yourself are implementing what you are preaching to others. I also want to remind you the power that you have to make a difference through your right to vote. So I urge you to remain activists through your ballots and register to vote if you have not already. Use your anger as fuel igniting within you powerful and peaceful actions. Most importantly, let's never forget why we are standing here today. Not only for George Floyd, Tanisha Anderson, Eric Garner, and way too many more to list, but also for the past generations who have been stripped of their human right of life simply because of racism, and also for the future generations who should never be afraid of those who are paid to protect them simply because of the color of their skin. Thank you.
Pamela Turner, Terrence Franklin, Corin Gaines, Miles Hall, Samuel David Mallard, Michael Dean. Dear Plymouth community, the eyes of America are upon us. As America's hometown, it is imperative that we actively and vocally stand behind the Black Lives Matter movement. I say this not as a guilt tactic, but as words of encouragement to be bold. Soon the nation would be recognizing Plymouth's 400-year anniversary. Instead, we find ourselves reflecting on the fact that for nearly 400 years, people of African descent in America have been treated unfairly. Plymouth Rock has landed upon us. But now is the time for urgent change, to lift off the crushing weight of racism, and to leave no stone unturned. I've read the demographics. Plymouth is about 87% white, so many of us have become accustomed to white privilege in daily life. You may not have any Black friends, family, or businesses to directly support that you know of. But this is not an issue for the minority community alone. This is a matter of systemic targeting, of implicit bias and inhumanity. And your voice matters.
Woo!
Our inattention shows privilege, yet our silence is violence, and America will notice. Not being racist is not enough, and it does not show allyship. Anti-racism is calling out racist beliefs, thoughts, actions, and institutions wherever they are and however they make us uncomfortable. Nearly 400 years ago, settlers of Plymouth Colony made the Mayflower Compact, a promise to work together for the prosperity of one another. Today, let us renew this compact to make a society of equality, justice, and accountability for all. Thank you.
Jamie Johnson, Antoine Rose, Stephen Clark, Tony McDade, William Green, KK Jones, Ayanna Stanley Jones. I just want to remind us all today why we're here. Many people say that we're here to loot, we're here to vandalize and destroy property. Well, we all know that that's not why. We're not only here for George Floyd. We're here for all of the people that have died because of these racist acts. We're here for all of the people that have been profiled because of these racist acts. We're here for all of the people that have been denied jobs, have been denied acceptance into colleges, and have been denied so many things in this life because of the color of their skin. We're here to bring awareness and justice to these people. We're here to bring awareness. We're here to show everyone that we are not going to stand down. We are not going to be silent. We are going to be here for everyone.
Rest in peace to Martin Luther. Man, rest in peace to Martin Luther. You did it for a better future. Wish I could see Martin Luther. What do you think about my generation? I know you're not satisfied, but are you devastated? Wish I could see Martin Luther. Man, rest in peace to Martin Luther. Black people still struggling. The pain inside me got me bubbling. Am I bad for being antisocial? Cause I do this for the people closest in my circle. Martin, they don't understand. I had to grow up, be a man without a man. I hate to see my own people suffering. It's modernized slavery by the government. War on drugs started with Ronald, and now look at our president, Donald. Martin, what do you think, my friend, when Trump says make America great again? I be praying for all of the hate to end. Can't act like I don't see it, I cannot pretend. Martin Luther King Jr., you my whole senior quote. I pray these people listen to these lyrics that I wrote. Rest in peace to Martin Luther. Man, rest in peace to Martin Luther. You're headed for a better future. Wish I could see Martin Luther. What do you think about my generation? I know you're not satisfied, but are you devastated? Wish I could see Martin Luther. Man, rest in peace to Martin Luther. You the reason why I love my color. Love my brother and my brother from another mother. Marching through the summer 63 in Washington. And when you said I have a dream, that's where it all began. Black President Obama in 08 he ran. Black Lives Matter, I'ma continue to stand. Black Lives Matter, I said it again. God's killing us over and over again.
Anthony Hill, Eric Logan, Gregory Hill, Ryan Twyman, Willie McCoy, Emantic Fitzgerald Bradford Jr., Jamel Robertson, Kendra James, DeAndre Ballard, excuse me, I need to look at my notes for what I wrote. It is so powerful to have you all here today. And it isn't just powerful because you're honoring the memory and the lives of George Floyd, excuse me, I'm a little nervous, of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the many lives that have been lost and have not been able to reach the media. It is powerful that you are here today because of the history of Plymouth. In the landmark case, Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, it was declared unconstitutional for schools to be segregated. And the response for many Caucasians was to flee. And they fled to places like Plymouth. And the reason that they fled was because they didn't want their children to be next to and study near minorities, children of color. Which is why I say to you today that it is so powerful that you are here today. Because you are here in honor of the memory, and you are here in honor of minorities in a town that was once a safe haven against minorities. And I just hope that this vigil isn't the last place that you fight for this, because this is not a trend. Amen. This is about real lives. And let me be clear, change can only be achieved together. We need you, we need our allies, and it makes me so happy that I see so many of you here today. You have privilege. The color of your skin is privilege. So please, it is so important that you let your voices be heard. Do not stay silent. Please speak out on these issues and promote change. Posting is not enough. Policies need to change. Racist policing needs to change. And those are only two of the things that need changing. We cannot keep focusing on trying to fix people. We need to focus on fixing a system that supports racism. Thank you.
Wendell Allen, Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Good evening. Words cannot describe how grateful I am for having this opportunity to speak. I'm Karen Phan, the co-president of Amnesty International and executive board president for Plymouth North. The inspirational wisdom of those that have just spoken is the reason why I'm here today. I'm so proud to represent the students that stand before me, past and present, for using their voice and presence to demand change. When writing the speech, I knew there were so many things I needed to address. I hope I can do justice for the future generations. Thank you to those that are petitioning, donating, and protesting. Continue to learn and educate, because although we are conditioned to believe trends come and go as we scroll past a post on social media, it is not enough. Systematic racism is not a trend, an idea or concept. This is an injustice which Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and many other historical figures we learned in history class fought for, that is still prevalent today. We are still demanding human rights and racial equality in 2020. I encourage all watching and listening to take a step back and speak for the people that do not have the resources to speak for themselves. I personally believe that if you feel uncomfortable or the values of the Black Lives Matter movement do not affect you, then you are privileged by silently watching and waiting for this to be over. That is tunnel vision. See the world for what it is. Silence and ignorance resulted in the murder of George Floyd, and unfortunately, many other African Americans follow the list. We have the choice to use our words and actions to reform. I take responsibility for what I do during these times, and you should too. Most importantly, happy Pride Month. To all ages, you are loved and valued in this community. As an ally, we support you because you matter. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. We cannot forget our roots when the Stonewall protests in New York City 51 years ago resulted in the LGBTQ movement against police brutality. I wanted to bring the celebration to light into line leading resistance and revolution. Imagine the progress that we can make when we begin to love and not hate. Change will approach, and when it does, we need to open our arms to it. Lastly, I believe we're all students. These are confusing and challenging and controversial times, but we can educate ourselves through civil rights activists like John F. Kennedy and Marsha P. Johnson. Open a book, turn on a documentary. Our future reflects our actions. Take pride in that. If there is one good thing coming from this year, it has to be racial equality. When we take responsibility and accountability for ourselves and others. As I conclude, I quote Martin Luther King Jr. I have a dream that our 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin but by the content of their character. What will our kids say about us when they refer about this chapter in history? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So everyone can hear you.
Hold it up. It's a little nerve-wracking up here for them, guys.
Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking because I don't have a speech or anything prepared, but... Some people might know me, some might not. I stand out here and I'm speaking up here because I'm also a victim of racial equality. A lot of my people been beaten down by the police. I've also been witnessing racial inequality from the police, but I'm not out here to complain or anything right now. I'm here to stand as another man and also as a colored man with all these people out here, that I am humbled, because right now it just shows me that there's still hope. It shows me all these people out here shows me that it doesn't matter what color we are or who we are. We're all family at the end of the day. Doesn't matter where you come from, what your color is, your background, we're all family. And I stand here as a proud colored man. Today, to see all this, I am very humbled. It brings a lot of joy to my life, because for so long, not a lot of people know, but I've also dealt with similar things like this. But I'm very humbled to see all these people out here. I just want to say thank you, and it's all love to everybody. Black Lives Matter!
On behalf of the proud members of the Plymouth Police Department, we stand firm with the law enforcement professionals across the Commonwealth and the nation in strongly denouncing the egregious actions taken by the 4 officers in Minneapolis. Whether by action or inaction, causing the death of George Floyd. These types of incidents are in no way indicative of the professional policing that is displayed on our streets each and every day. The actions of these officers is offensive to all police officers and violates the core values of our profession. Our heartfelt sympathy and deepest condolences go out to the Floyd family. As a law enforcement professional, I believe it is our duty to speak in opposition of police violence against community members and in support of the wave of non-violent protests taking place across the country today. We cannot uphold public safety without earning community trust. One cause of this distrust is that police officers who commit serious misconduct are rarely held accountable. Today, words are not enough. I support national action because we owe equal rights to every person, regardless of their background. We must act on our values of transparency, accountability, and safety. We stand here tonight united with our community in striking down social injustice and ensuring that the civil rights and liberties of all citizens are upheld. We all must learn from this tragedy so that it does not happen again.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody who is here. It's just a thrill. Sorry.
Push it down. Make sure you put it all the way down.
Does this sound better?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Henrietta Consentino, and I am here with the League of Women Voters. We in the League believe in the power of women to create a more perfect democracy. That has been our vision since 1920, 100 years ago. When the League was birthed by leaders of the women's suffrage movement, For 100 years, we have been a nonpartisan activist grassroots organization that believes voters should play a critical role in democracy. But democracy prevails only if and when there is justice.
Yes.
That is why the National League has made the following statement, part of which you see on the poster over there, but I will read it. The League says, "We acknowledge painfully that America is a nation founded on racism. Therefore, all who live in this country must contribute to and participate in organizations actively working to achieve full liberation and inclusive freedom. We must advocate for anti-racist policies at every level of government." We echo our partners at the NAACP. We must vote in November. The road to change lies at the ballot box. The systems of oppression that have perpetuated the myth of white supremacy in our country must be dismantled if we are ever to become a nation we pledge to be. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have heard from the younger generation, and they are eloquent, and they are our hope for the future. I am not young, and I am not a person of color, and I am privileged in many ways. All my life, I have witnessed cruelty and injustice directed at people of color. As a high school student in 1957, I watched with horror as Governor Orville Faubus in Arkansas called out the National Guard to prevent 9 black students from integrating a school, a white public school, in Little Rock. In 1963, the year I graduated from college, I watched Bull Connor's troops aim water cannons and attack dogs at peaceful marchers in Birmingham, Alabama. I saw the aftermath of the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church, where 4 little girls were murdered by the bomb. That same year, here in Boston, Massachusetts, I volunteered with the Congress on Racial Equality, called CORE, which organized sit-ins to protest the racially discriminatory practice of double listings. I recall especially a wicked landlord named Wattendorf, who owned a lot of property in Dorchester, where we sat over and over again in protest. I was on Blue Hill Avenue in Roxbury turning out a CORE newsletter when over the news came the news of JFK's assassination. It's hard to speak over. That's a good call and response.
You did it well.
In Washington, D.C.,
No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace!
we'll just join them. Okay, I just want a couple more things. In 1968 in Washington, D.C., I was working near Lafayette Square when Martin Luther King was assassinated. I had heard Martin speak 2 months earlier. I was devastated, and I saw, as the city burned, I witnessed the rage, the intensity of the rage, and I understood that rage. I shared a part of it. There's a limit to what folks can take. In 1969, we moved to Orangeburg, South Carolina, and learned of a massacre the previous summer when 3 black students from South Carolina State University, demonstrating peacefully against racial discrimination, were shot in the back and killed as they ran from the highway patrol. That was 2 years before Kent State, and it barely made a ripple on the national news. Meanwhile, the Orangeburg Public Health Centers still maintained waiting rooms that were separate but very unequal. And all that was 50 years ago. Enough! Enough! Racism and the very dark forces of violence swirling around it is stubborn, but we shall not allow it to dominate. We are not going to be bullied. We believe in the loving fierceness and the fierce lovingness of female protective energy, and we call on that fierceness now. We all have it, male and female, those energies. It is time for us to listen deeply, speak from the heart, refuse hatred, demand justice, and never allow the bullies to win. That is why I am here.
The bells are ringing. If we are quiet, we can hear them. I will start the stopwatch so that we can understand the pain, agony of having your government hold its foot on your neck until every ounce of blood is drained from your body for 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
No peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Praises the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have now our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way which the choices have taught us. We have come treading the blood of the slaughtered. Out of the gloomy past, still as we stand at last, where the right gleam of a bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Lift our feet straight from the places that God will have led thee. Lift our hearts drunk with the wine of the world, forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. True to our God, true to our native land.
Good evening, Plymouth.
Hi.
I just want to say thank you. Look at all of you. This is why I love Plymouth. My name is Vedna Lacombe Haywood. I am a member of the League of Women Voters. I am a member of, I'm actually one of your school committee members. And I'm also part of No Place for Hate. And I just want to read a statement that No Place for Hate has. I'm sorry. I just want to read a statement that No Place for Hate has for the community, and then just to reflect on mine. Like many of you, we are exhausted seeing Black men and women treated as less than in our country. We denounce these gut-wrenching acts that have been happening for years and continue to take place across the nation. Most recently, the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. There exists an increasingly life-threatening culture for people of color in their communities, which is sickening and unacceptable. It is a real and present danger that we must meet head-on. We can no longer continue as a country to be apathetic and numb to these attacks. We must stand together to educate each other on how to prevent and combat these situations in the future until we are rid of these oppressive acts. Furthermore, we must support those who are understandably outraged and are grieving the recurrent violence that exists in their communities. Plymouth is proud to be a No Place for Hate designated community. And the No Place for Hate Committee. As part of its success to work across our community, the committee works in partnership with the Plymouth Area Interfaith Clergy, Plymouth Public Schools, Plymouth Public Library, and the Plymouth Police Department. These partnerships have been fostered over the years in the mutual goal of ensuring our community is one in which hate does not thrive. Those being threatened, killed, and cast aside are our brothers and sisters. We must stand together against these actions. It is not enough to be against racism. We must be anti-racist. We are reminded of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "No one is free until we are all free. We must unite to end hatred of each other." I just want to say, as I reflect on the following events that have transpired across the country, not only in the past couple of weeks, but for hundreds of years. This is an opportunity as a society to truly look at some of the inequities and injustices we were founded on and that still exist to learn from, to leave behind, and progress. To understand that when we say Black Lives Matter, it is not to exclude others or to choose. We ask to be included. Yeah. We ask to be seen as an equal, to be seen as a human being, to be valued, to have our experiences and stories honored, to teach and protect our children like your own. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to the die-in in Boston and the vigil in Hingham. And you know what I didn't see? Was chaos and disruptors. I saw young and older, black and white, and everything in between. I saw hope. I felt hope. I was speaking with Christina as we reflected on why this has resonated with such a large group of people. I was speaking with Christina as we reflected on why this has resonated with a large group of people. Why wasn't Trayvon, the teenager, gunned down by a vigilante while eating Skittles? Why wasn't it Tamar Rice, the 11-year-old playing cops and robbers in the playground? But it was Ahmaud and George that resonated. Perhaps in this time of COVID, in our time of isolation, there was something more profound that we learned and realized. How much we truly, truly need each other. And perhaps, as lives were taken and ravaged, seeds were planted, seeds of humanity were planted, and now they're being sown. Perhaps we finally realized that how we treated each other is no longer acceptable, that it is truly time to progress. I just want to thank everyone who's come out in the community to stand in the gap, not only for those who are marginalized and oppressed, but perhaps to open up your minds, to right the wrongs, to work together, and to find solutions for us to move forward. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I have a teacher voice, so if it's weird, sorry. My name is Andy Loretz. Don't cheer for me, I don't deserve it as much as the beautiful people next to me. So, thank you. But I'm a member of Indivisible Plymouth and a downtown Plymouth resident. Thank you, Christina Brown, and all the organizers and leaders of Indivisible Plymouth and the League of Women Voters, and all of the fantastic speakers that did an amazing job today. I have to tell you, I'm pretty nervous right now because I don't feel qualified to speak on this. I'm just a white kid who grew up on Long Island in New York. I grew up in a very cozy situation. In fact, it was that seemingly cozy upbringing that I feel most uncomfortable talking about today, and I'm shaking the bejesus out of here because I'm about to get real about racism and my role in racism, and I'm apologizing in advance because it's uncomfortable for me and I can only imagine. So, I unfortunately have a very racist past. I grew up being very racist. Racism was positively reinforced throughout my formative years. And I hate saying this, but using the N-word was perversely used as a term of endearment in my family. How messed up is that? I have done and said so many racist things, and I look back on it now and I absolutely abhor and so does the thing, and regret all of that. My dear friend Kat Krampf, who's also a beautiful music teacher, asked me a question the other day. She said, "What was your first encounter with race?" I remember that in 2nd grade, my teacher taught a unit on prejudice, diversity, and civil rights.
While this was very instructive, it was also only a couple of talks and VHS videos about these topics, and it was all crammed into February for Black History Month rather than an ongoing conversation throughout our education. We learned about Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, and we learned that to judge someone based on the color of their skin was prejudiced and unfair to do to people. And I remember arriving home and sharing some of this information proudly and happily, like a second grader would, with my family. The response, more or less, was, "And so the indoctrination begins." Apparently, it's indoctrination to teach a young white kid to respect people who look different from themselves. These small forms of acceptable, quote-unquote, racism are a part of me, and unfortunately racism rears its ugly head far too often in Plymouth. All you need to do is look at some of the local townie pages on social media. You know what I'm talking about. So after I came out as a gay man to my parents in my freshman year of college, more like forced out, but that's a different topic. And I started learning about LGBTQ+ history, such as the Stonewall riots. I began to see my struggle in the struggle of others. I started to see the overt and also the, quote, polite forms of prejudice that people, including family members, but also my government, wielded against me for being gay. I began the journey towards realizing that if, as a gay white man, I felt this marginalized, how must Black people, indigenous people, and people of color feel? Slowly and over time, and I'm still not done, I came to think and reflect more about my relationship with race. I'm far from being a perfect ally to Black people and indigenous people and people of color, and I personally have a long way to go towards being a better anti-racist ally and just being a better person. But I believe that this is the work we all need to start doing to show that Black lives really do matter to us here in Plymouth. So Plymouth, we have work to do. We showed up today in peace, and that is amazing, but we must keep this struggle going. We must hold our elected leaders accountable at every level of government, especially locally. As a town meeting member, one of your elected officials for this precinct, Precinct 3, downtown Plymouth, I encourage you, go vote on June 20th in your local election. Absentee ballot, please! Absentee ballot if you can. Contact the town clerk. So, I pose the question back at you now. What was your first encounter with race and racism? As you reflect on your own experiences with race and racism, I hope you will take that to the ballot box. Use your vote to say that Black Lives Matter in Plymouth. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I want to call forth the name of one of Plymouth's own, Reverend Dr. Peter Gomes, African American Reverend Dr. Peter Gomes. 35 years ago, he wrote a book, the good book, Reading the Bible with Mind and Heart. Chapter 5 is about race and the Bible. If you have not had a chance to take a look at it, it is, alas, as important to read today as it was 35 years ago. Actually, 2 years before he published the book, he talked to the white Reverend Billy Graham, who said our consciences should be stirred to repentance by how far we have fallen short of what God asks us to be as agents of reconciliation. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
On May 29, just a couple of days ago in the Boston Globe, my African-American son-in-law, Professor Michael Jeffries, wrote a column, and these are a couple of sentences from what Dr. Michael had to say. Our country's racial history is public history, available at every library and through every search engine. It is no secret that America is not yet a functioning democracy. As the kids say, know about it. I call forth the name of longtime African-American Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, whose photo is there.
It is bad. In black, in white, in yellow, in green, and whatever you call them. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a jerk, you're a jerk. If you're a hater, you're a hater. And let me tell you something.
We are trying.
My name is Wesley James. I'm a 2-year Vietnam veteran. When them people over there, I fell in love with some of them, man. We were first friends and shit over there. We're people just like you and just like me. And then they laugh at stupid shit. Like, I gotta tell you a story. One time, listen to me. Listen to me. I taught this Vietnamese kid how to say, frig you, sir. So he said, frig you, sir. And then the officers looked at me. I'm on the main gate and I talked to them. And they looked at me and they go, and I said, what are you looking at me for? I didn't teach you how to say that, you know what I mean? All I'm saying, listen, there's good, there's bad. When you go and do something against your brother who's trying to build a business, who's trying to get something better, and you go in and bust it up and take his shit, and don't blame the police because they're great. I'm telling you right now, the police are great. Listen, how much can they do? They're only men. But they'll give their, I'll tell you what, they'll give their life for you. They'll give their life for you. Listen to me, I'm not causing trouble. I'm not trying to cause no trouble. But listen to me, if you're a good person, then help your brother. Help your sister. Go over and hang. Thank you, Mr.
I want to say the words of Barbara Jordan.
Please.
Sir, I want to say the words of Barbara Jordan, and then I want to ask you to repeat after me.
We're going to live, and we're going to die.
Want is very simple.
When you die, take the best things you ever did in your life with you. Don't take the evil things.
Repeat after me. What people want is very simple. We want an America as good as its promise. I call forth the name of African-American poet Lucille Clifton, and these words from her poem Singing, which she begins using the words of white American poet Galway Canal. One singer falls, but the next steps into the empty place and continues the singing. Lucille Clifton says, it is late in white America. To which Palestinian-American poet Naomi Shihab Nye responds, but everything comes next. Repeat after me. But everything comes next. I call forth the name of Joy Harjo, the current poet laureate of the United States of America and the first indigenous person to hold that role. As we are all gathered here today on indigenous land, the land of the Mashpee Wampanoag. Joy Harjo said, all acts of kindness are lights in the war for justice. Repeat after me. All acts of kindness are lights in the war for justice. I call forth the name of Brenda Flies with Hawks, a Cherokee Salagi indigenous woman who has mentored me for more than 30 years with these 4 reminders passed along to her from her ancestors. Number 1, practice listening. Number 2, honor silence. Number 3, remember respect. Number 4, always show appreciation. Repeat after me. Number 1, practice listening. Number 2, Honor silence.
Honor silence.
Number 3, remember respect.
Remember respect.
Number 4, always show appreciation.
Always show appreciation.
As we have kneeled here today for the strength needed to go forward with this task of bringing our country further along into living out our democratic ideals, and as a way of honoring those we have lost to the violence and the virus of racism, I pledge with all my heart to keep on listening and learning with an open heart so my actions as a white person can be thoughtful. Our country needs every one of us to be on this journey together, perhaps most importantly so, those of us who are white. We tend to be remedial in our understanding, but we can learn, and we must. Repeat after me. But we can learn.
We can learn.
And we must.
And we must.
Thank you so much for being here.
I was born in 1968, the year Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. At that time, he was hated by many white Americans, and his death was celebrated by those who saw him as an agitator. Today he's revered, and he has a holiday. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. As a child growing up in Philadelphia, Frank Rizzo was my police chief and then my mayor, and it was well known that he didn't like black people and terrorized them, often using the police force to do so. My parents taught me to be careful. Many white citizens in Philly loved him because he kept the people of color in line. They built a statue for him. Today, his statue came down in Philadelphia. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I now live in Plymouth with my family, and I'm incredibly thankful that my police chief is here today and is nothing like Frank Rizzo. Every interaction I have personally had with Plymouth Police, including getting stopped for a headlight out, was courteous and respectful. But when I was stopped and given that warning, my son at 13 was for the first time terrified and put his hands on the dash, as he knows that every police stop does not have a happy ending. This is something I can't protect him from, even if I think Chief Botieri and his force are all great guys. I explained to him as the officer walked to our car, my license has my address on it. The officer will know we are blocks from our home, that we own our home, that we are very fair-skinned, that we have a kayak rack on our roof. And I have no outstanding tickets, so we will be fine. As I rationalize my privilege to help my son feel safe, this saddens me. I know how implicit bias works. There is now science that can tell us how to be less biased in our interactions. Perhaps if Rizzo had it, he might have been a little kinder to the black people in Philadelphia. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. This January, my son was walking home from school in North Plymouth with his hood on. He took it off, and a white woman from across the street jumped when her brain reclassified my son from a cold white boy to a scary black boy with an afro. She didn't mean to. She probably didn't even know she did it. My son saw the fear and saw her jump. That was a hard conversation to have with a little boy who once saw a book on my shelf as a first grader by Charles Barkley entitled, "Who's Afraid of a Big Black Man?" and said, my teacher, who was white at Hedge Elementary School and loved him very much as he loved her, will never be afraid of me, no matter how big I get. We can watch the images on TV right now and choose to tell our brains to be afraid of black people. Or we can choose to learn why black people are afraid right now. We can call certain neighborhoods dangerous and lock our car doors, or we can Google redlining and understand how those neighborhoods came to be. We can celebrate C20, or we can Google Google the 1619 Project and find out who came before.
Yes.
We can Google the names of the 42 innocents that members of our speaking group read today. We can Google the Tulsa Race Massacre that happened 99 years ago Monday, in which 300 African Americans were killed by white citizens, supported by the police, and dumped in mass graves. And we cannot wait for the Watchmen to tell us, is that a comic book fairy tale or does that really happen? Yes, it really happened. So how do we get here holding signs in Brewster's Garden? And how do we make sure those signs make a difference for how we interact, how our brains process who is safe and dangerous, how we talk to each other about which schools in our own town and which neighborhoods in our own town are safe and dangerous every single day in this town. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. You are here because you chose to start this journey, but we ask you to keep going. Google what you need to learn. Take an implicit bias test to see how your brain is working and what makes you jump. Lock your car door and what messages you send to your children about who and what is safe. Please think about your next step. What do you need to do to learn? Indivisible Plymouth and No Place for Hate are partnering for a Juneteenth Racial Healing and Learning Solidarity Celebration, which includes lawn art of Black Lives Matter signs that look like, can somebody hold that sign up for me? That's the proof we just got from the printer.
Hold it up. There you go.
Look like this to create conversations about race within our families, with our neighbors, and in the community of Plymouth. I have never seen a Black Lives Matter sign in Plymouth, and I have never seen a Black Lives Matter t-shirt in Plymouth until I wore one on Saturday to Walmart.
Yes. Oh boy.
This conversation is going to take a while, but we are in it for the long haul. This is more than a photo opportunity and a beautiful time to get outside after a COVID quarantine. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice.
Recently, I had the privilege of talking to someone who marched in the MLK marches and protest. And he told me something very important. He told me that when he protested, before they even protested, they were taught how to protest peacefully. As angry as we are, and as tired as we are, and as frustrated as we are, to see little change, we need to do this fight peacefully.
Amen.
Because if we do not do this fight peacefully, we're going to send the wrong message. And our message is not going to be received. And the people who are against us and against this fight are going to have more to feed off of. So again, I want to remind you, please, as much as we have the right to be angry and frustrated and tired, we need to have this fight and do it peacefully.
So I ask you to turn to the people that you came with and talk about what you're going to Google, who you're going to talk to, what language, as Andy said, you're going to remove from your vocabulary because you realize it says something more about you than the people that you are looking down upon. We are an intersectional, diverse community, and we are doing harm to many of our fellow citizens and community members because we talk about them and treat them with ways that do not show the respect that the signs we are holding display. So let's learn to walk our walk and talk our talk and make a commitment to do something after this. What are you reading? Who are you talking to? How are you interrupting and disrupting the conversation that's happening in our community and is raging on All Things Plymouth and all over social media about who has the right to be a citizen of this country, who has the right to breathe, and which lives matter. Thank you for coming out tonight.